Good morning, class. Good morning. Okay, welcome to the Control Without Ownership class. We got 2 days of solid information to teach you how to make a lot of money in real estate without owning the real estate. We're going to cover every aspect of it, from finding the deals all the way through to liquidating and getting checks. Yes, we're going to incorporate the ACTS program into it, but it's more than just ACTS. We're also going to be discussing the other things that you're going to do with these properties when you find them that do not require taking title to them. This is not a class about taking title subject to, nor buying with owner financing, nor paying cash for real estate. It's not about bank-owned properties. It's about the massive world of for sale by owners that are out there right now that we can capitalize on, that most people don't have any idea what to do with. It is about getting property information sheets completed and then figuring out what to do with them to help the seller out, to help a buyer in, and get paid a handsome check for doing what you know. This ACTS thing is taking the industry by storm. I'll tell you all about ACTS. The people that brought ACTS to me, John and Stephanie Iannotti, are in the room. You will meet them shortly. We'll also learn from them. We'll find out what's going on in their business and as far as ACTS and other things that they're doing. In fact, I'm going to have them participate in this event the entire time whenever they want to jump in. You're also going to meet Scott, the guy that is doing my full-time business in my office. Scott has a VA, virtual assistant, and now we are expanding that operation as well by just simply adding a couple of other folks that to do what Scott has been doing, because he just simply can't cover the whole city by himself. The good news is there's so many of these deals, it's not about finding them, it's about harvesting them, it's about following up, it's about getting to the ones that need your help, because there's just too many of them out there right now. In fact, I just saw the other day where 28% of all houses in America are overfinanced. 28% of all houses in America are overfinanced. 34% of houses in America are free and clear. So we also have better figure out what to do with those houses along the way so that we don't waste good opportunities. And then there's all the other deals in the middle that are not overfinanced and are not free and clear. And we're going to, in this class, we're going to learn how to locate them, how to quickly pre-screen them, how to determine what's the deal in a suspect or a prospect. We're going to discuss what our exit strategies would be if we decided to move forward. We're going to discuss how to handle the process of getting the agreement signed, to getting them to buy and then to sell. We're going to go over those agreements. We got every single step included, got every agreement included, got every form included, I got every script included. There's nothing left in this manual for you to do except go out and implement what I'm covering in the next 2 days. This is not new stuff. It is not that old, but I can tell you that around our office we're doing 2 to 3 ACTS deals per week, blended in with one or two bank-owned properties that we buy per week, sitting on our butt at a desk nowadays to buy those. And in this mix, there are some sandwich lease options and a couple other things as well. So you're going to see that by processing deals that you bring to class. Many of you brought for sale by owner leads. And we'll discuss those. I'll do a real deals structuring presentation in front of you with your leads. We'll do some of those today. We'll do some of those tomorrow. John and Stephanie Iannotti, where are you? Okay. All right. John, you guys want to come on up here and right now, let's meet the class. And then, frankly, I'll let you go back there and sit as long as you have a microphone in your hand. You have my permission to interrupt as you see fit and insert what you would do the same or differently. By the way, you have a license to disagree with me.
Great.
As long as it's not too much. If I put 10 businesses along that wall and I polled all 10 of them, would all 10 of them to be doing the exact same thing? No, there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
No.
Okay. They do things a little differently than I do. I'm probably doing it the right way. They're probably doing it the wrong. But, you know, when they're doing the seminar, they're doing it the right way and I'm doing it the wrong way. All right? They are the reason that ACTS exists. They brought it to me, and I immediately grasped it first time she mentioned it to me.
Not.
I don't think.
Okay, no, I didn't. It took a while to get my attention. I'm no different than anybody else. Anytime something new comes along, the first thing I'm saying, that's a load of crap, Prove it to me. Anyway.
But Ron, isn't it when the student is ready, the teacher will appear?
Shut up, John. Yeah, sometimes you just get too smart for your pants and learn too much. Yes, well, that's true. Well, the student wasn't ready. Okay. Anyway, they coined the term ACTS, or they stole it. I don't really know which, but I don't care. We'll see what that means. And they doing ACTS right where they live, and they were doing it before I met. And now I created a system, and I suspect that they're doing it actually more now. And we do have it systemized now. We do have it to where anybody can duplicate it, and a lot of folks are doing ACTS deals all over this country just that fast. And we just, 6 months ago now,
right,
when we started. Will you explain to them about what your business looks like? I know you live in Florida and you work in Pennsylvania. Tell us.
Okay. Well, we do everything, so, I mean, when Ron taught us years ago how to be a transaction engineer, and that's what we became very good at. A couple years ago when the bubble burst, there was a little bit of an issue because cash flow kind of turned into red ink. And it was like, wow, what do we do here? So we did, I always like to say, we did what old coach Chuck Noll used to say when they had a bad game, which was a rarity, the Steelers. And they would go back to basics, blocking, tackling. Well, that's what we did. What did we do when we first started with Ron? And that was we went to using options and lease options. And so we regressed back to that, took that idea and tried to implement it with what was going on in the marketplace today. And we tweaked it, changed it a little bit, and after about 4 different attorneys reviewing everything, we got it to where it was okay, you guys can do this. So we started implementing the program, and all of a sudden here we are, we're doing a deal, and it turned into ACTS. Now we're doing probably 3 to 4 deals, and I usually say per month, but Ron always says, tell them the true numbers. 3 to 4 deals per week with ACTS. We also are still doing short sales because that's prevalent down here in Florida. We're big into bulk buying of non-performing notes and REOs. And actually now the non-performing notes, we're actually using the ACTS with those, because we can either modify the loan for the home seller and keep them in the property, or they turn over the deed to us, and now we go find a tenant buyer to put in there with seller financing based on a lease option with ACTS. So it's helping people stay in their home if they want to stay in, and it's helping people get out without a deficiency judgment or a bad credit report from us reporting on their mortgages. So that's what we're doing down here, mainly in Florida. Pennsylvania, we have our business on autopilot, so that's where the ACTS is really being implemented up there.
You have one person up there, boots on the ground?
Yes.
The rest of it is done by VAs.
Correct.
Virtual assistants, and they run your whole business. And
Correct.
You're down here.
Correct.
And you don't feel any remorse whatsoever about that, do you?
Actually, the only remorse I have is, Ron used to tell us all the time, I used to complain all the time about going to Pennsylvania, and it was cold. Now when I come up from Fort Myers to Jacksonville, it's like, Ron, it's cold here. And he always used to tell me, move. Well, Ron, move.
By golly. John, there's quite a few people listening to these tapes that do not know you. Tell us a little bit about your background before you got into real estate.
Well, when I got out, my big thing in life I wanted to do from 7th grade on was I wanted to be a policeman. So I went on to college back when it wasn't exciting to be a policeman, and got my criminology degree and went on to be a policeman. I even worked my way up to being chief of police on one department. Soon figured out I really didn't care for the politics and the low paychecks I was getting as a policeman. So what I did was I more than doubled my income by going into the steel mill. So I spent 24 years in a steel mill, and I hated every single day of it. Not the people that were there, but the work itself.
I remember.
I-
National Harvester for me.
Oh, man, I couldn't take
They
it.
could have trained a monkey to do what I did.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it was a dirty, stinky dungeon kind of an atmosphere, and I hated it. But, you know, there was something calling, and I basically had like unlimited overtime for 16 years. So I worked more than my share in that mill. And then we got bought out, so they cut back on the overtime. So now I'm down to 40 hours a week, and it's like, wow, you know, I got time on my hands. I should be doing something. You know, and my paycheck went way down. Even though it was still good, it went way down. And it was like, you know, we need to do something to make some money. Well, we were reading the paper one Sunday morning, and on TV comes this guy selling an infomercial on real estate. And Steph says, well, you know, you're fidgety. What's going on? And I said, well, we should be doing something to make some money. She said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to do that. And she said, what is it? And I said, turn it up, listen. So she listened, and she said, okay, buy it. And I said, nah, forget it. You know, so she ordered it. And that started it. That got us our first taste into real estate. It was about a year later, we ran into Ron at a convention. He was the 11th speaker of the day, or of the weekend, and the 11th program that we bought.
But justify that.
We're information sponges. We love, when we're into it, we want to know. And we were just, everybody who spoke, hey, they did a great job, they sold us, we bought their program. Went through them all. The only one that resonated was Ron. And, you know, the guy said, look, listen to me, follow this path, don't step off, don't change that wheel, you know, reinvent the wheel, all that stuff, and you're going to make money. Well, we did. Our first year in business full-time, when we finally broke away from our jobs, we did 7 figures.
How many?
7.
Any periods in the middle?
No.
No?
No, they were clear at the end
Yeah,
there.
that's 7 figures net?
Net.
Not gross?
Net.
Net.
Okay, first
Net.
year.
First year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, we did it part-time probably for 8 months or so. And, you know, I went to Steph one day and I said, you know what, this is costing us money, me going to work. And she said, well, quit. Well, she only had to say that one time. Because I love my job. Yeah. So I told them at work, hey, I'm taking all my vacation and I'm not coming back. And they said, you'll be back. And I said, no, I won't. We haven't looked back since.
Got it. You know how close my story was? Same?
Yep.
Yeah, give him a round of applause for that guy. Except I could only take 2 years of International Harvester, and I told him to shove it. 2 years. That's all I could take of it. I was so bored.
Oh,
All right, Stephanie, since I know you're the real brains of this outfit, what's your average axe deal worth right now?
Average axe steel is about $6,500.
Okay. And realistically, how many of those a month are you doing?
We're doing about 12, but it sometimes goes between 12 and 16, so it just,
Per month?
yeah.
Okay. And that's true? That's
Yes.
not seminar crap?
No, it's not seminar crap.
And you're doing that mostly with VAs?
Mostly with VAs, yes.
What other kind of deals are you doing?
We're doing short sales. That axe is really the biggest thing we're doing right now, but we're doing sandwich leases because there's a lot of these that you want to stay in the middle of.
Yes.
And that's your choice. It depends on where you are in your business, but sandwich leases, short sales, non-performing notes.
You could probably get some deeds from time to time, subject to...
Occasionally. We haven't had a deed in probably,
it's been a while for the deed.
but we really haven't pushed
Probably
for that
because you
either.
quit asking.
Yeah, we quit asking is the truth of
You
it.
get in this mode and you forget, hey, I should have bought that one, not just leased it. But you can always, anytime you get a lease option on a property that you should have got a deed on, you can go back and get the deed anytime you want it. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
All right. All right. Is there anything else you want us to know then before I get into the...
I'm a very type A personality, so this just killed me for him to stand there and talk, and I didn't get to say anything, so I'm glad I get to talk now.
Woman with a mic.
But no, I'm a control freak, and I'm sure some of you out there can relate to that. So I want to as a testimony to having the VAs work in your business, and not just for getting FSBOs, but doing everything that you don't have the time or shouldn't be doing. Right. Because when we first started out, I quit my job of 24 years, and I was in a position that I controlled a lot of things. I worked for an orthopedic surgeon in the OR with his patients, and I was his personal assistant. So I was basically in control of him. So I thought that I should be in control of John, and I should be in control of our business. Well, I quickly found out, number one, I'm terrible with math, so doing the bookkeeping for 3 years on my own, wrong, cost us a huge amount of money, because I had to then hire a bookkeeper after my CPA said, you have really screwed this up royally, to redo everything and get me back to where I needed. But John said to me one day, he walked in and he said, I'm tired of this. You can't control everything. And he shoved a piece of paper at me, and it said, this is the ad I'm putting in the paper. I'm finding somebody. So make long story short, we brought people into our office, and he just about went nuts. He said, I can't handle the drama.
All women.
Yeah, all women. And the phone would ring, one would pick up the phone, and a funny story would take place. They'd tell the rest of them, and I'd be in the other room listening, and nothing was getting done. So the next time he came to me, he shoved another piece of paper underneath my nose, and he said, we're hiring VAs. I said, what's a VA? And he said, a virtual assistant. And I'm like, okay, where'd you hear about that? He's like, well, online. I've got it figured out. And I'm like, okay, right. Let's see how this works. Yeah. But what we found out was how we took 4 people in our office, full-time people. We now operate with 1 acquisitionist on the ground, 1 handyman that's just on call when necessary, and 1 guy that is just kind of like he'll go and do things for us, like put the signs out and do little things like that, and 2 VAs. That's how we run our business, at a fraction of the price that we were paying for 4 full-time people.
All right. All right. Okay. Well, thank you two very much. Give them a round of applause. Hold on to the mic. Certainly going to be hearing a lot more from them and others as well. Elsa, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. This is Elsa. You're going to be hearing from her later today as well. She will get your VAs for you if you don't already have them, train them, and make life easy for you. And I hope you listen to the Ionatis, because, guys, if you don't do the VA part, your chances of success are going to dwindle rapidly, and everything you can learn this weekend. First thing you got to understand is you won't do all this crap. So don't try to convince yourself you're going to do all this crap. And for the price of a VA, it's incredible how cheap they are and how much revenue they can bring to you. Okay? Has everybody got a manual or access to a manual? Let's get going. We got so much to cover in such a short time. And on page 3, it's a warning. It says, if you copy my stuff, you're dead. I will send Guido out after you and take both legs off at the knees. Table of contents is next. Okay, what we will cover is on page 5. And I'm not going to go down the list because we're going to cover it anyway. It's there for you to read. And on page 6 is the major ways to profit in quick-turn real estate. And the first is wholesaling properties. We are not covering that here. We are not. That is covered in my Quick Start School and in my red Ugly House cash flow system in its entirety. Retailing properties, we are not covering that here because that means to me cashing out to qualified buyers. That is covered in the red cash flow system and the Quick Start. Well, it's not covered in the Quick Start School except the selling part. Rehabbing houses is all in the red system, and my friend Robin Thompson has got an event on that, rehabbing and retailing for cash. She's probably the best in the industry at that. We're working very closely with her now. Getting ownership means taking the property subject to. You will run across deals where you're going to want to do that. My hope is to make sure you understand when it's time to take them subject to, which means you buy the property by taking over the debt without assuming any loans and without putting yourself in any liability position. There are times when you much rather own the property than lease it or lease option it. And you'll learn why and when. Lease options, we're going to very closely cover that because that is pretty much what this control without ownership is all about. It's either lease options or acts. And lease options going in is what I'm referring to, lease optioning from the seller, leasing it with the right to buy, and then probably subleasing it or assigning it, which is your Acts at the bottom of the page. And then options is where we do nothing more than option it for price A and sell it for price B. On the next page, we discuss the definition of Acts, which again is a term the Ioannidis created. Now, of course, when they're not in the room, I created it. Just so we're clear. Assigning contracts and terms system. And it has changed this whole business. And it's changed it for the better. It's created opportunities that did not exist in the past. Well, fortunately for you, we are in a very, very small minority of the investors out there right now, so you pretty much got this whole thing to yourself, no matter where you live. And there's just an incredible opportunity here. Now, when you get a for sale by owner sheet filled out by your VA, and it comes to you, you literally have 4 choices, most likely, if it's a FSBO. And we're only dealing with FSBOs here. There's no bank-owned properties being discussed this weekend. That's a whole different side of the business. That's the all-cash business. That's the ugly house side of the business, as we call it. This weekend, we're in the pretty house side of the business, and we're not even covering all of that. Just the part where we control properties, but for the most part, not own them. But you have choices when these things come at you. You can either buy them with owner financing, or you can lease them with the right to sublease it and the option to buy it, or you can take over the debt subject to, or you can option it for all cash with full intent to sell it for a higher price. Those are your 4 choices. And the whole goal this weekend is for you to figure out where to put what and when, and then how to exit from it when we do that. After you do this for a little bit, you'll see how incredibly really easy that is. But I will confess that in the very front end, the first time you're hearing this, it may not be so easy. And I know from working with some folks that it takes a while to get acclimated to it and to really get it and figure it out. But it's really not that complicated. It does not fit into, usually it fits into one model that stands out, but sometimes there are 2 or 3 different options you have. Sometimes there are none. Sometimes there's only one option. And sometimes there's no options. And that's another thing. We got to learn how to know when it's time to fold them and not hold them. Some deals, many deals, are going to come at you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do with them. And the best thing you can do is ignore it, move on, and quit trying to put a square peg in a round hole. All right, on page 8, what you need to do business, where will it work, and how do you make money? How do you make money is going to be quite obvious to you all over this entire session. What you need to do business is nothing more than you've already got. You don't have to go out and find anything, buy anything. You do not need to make a trip to Office Depot and stock up your office at home. Frankly, you don't even hardly need an office at home. But you do need a telephone, that's for sure. You are going to need some paperwork, which is right on your Gold Club site where you can go pull it off. So therefore, you're going to need access to a computer, or your VA is, one of the two. And obviously, just the normal things that you need to get through life for the most part. Where will it work? It works in every city in the United States and every province in Canada. That's where it works. There are no places it does not work. So the next time you get on one of those mindless chat rooms and people start trying to tell you it doesn't work here for some stupid reason they heard that has been passed down 12 times through the gossip circles, it works everywhere in the United States. And sometimes there are going to be changes that are necessary, except for example, Texas. Anybody in here from Texas? Okay? In Texas, I cannot put a lease option tenant buyer in a house and collect a non-refundable deposit. So I simply change it from a lease option to an AITD, all-inclusive trust deed. I buy it with owner financing, I sell it with owner financing, or I agree to buy it with owner financing, and I assign that contract so my buyer can buy it with owner financing. We adopt and we overcome. We adapt and we overcome. We don't let anybody tell us we can't do business because somebody told me you couldn't do it here. Just remember, the broke people are always trying to teach you how to be rich. They are not qualified, they are clueless, and they have no knowledge of what they're talking about for the most part. They just spreading gossip. And if you don't believe that, just attend some of the forums and chat rooms. And now, oh my God, Man, I can't even stand to go on these things. Every time I do, get a life. You know, is this what you got nothing better to do with your time than sit around and mindless chatter like this? Wow. Okay, so it works everywhere. You're going to make money, preferably money going in, money monthly, and money later. In Acts, not true. In Acts, you're going to get one check and you're done, just like a wholesale or a retail for cash out deal. And by the way, guys, our goal is not to do Acts deals. Acts deals are not what we want to do. Acts deals are deals we do when there's no other thing we can do to get more money out of the deal than assign the contract to an owner-occupant type buyer. Acts is not our goal. It's only the byproduct of the particular project we're working on because we can't fit it into a mold to where we get multiple paydays. Okay, on page 9, I'm going to go through some examples of the types of deals that you're going to run across. And before we get through today, we're going to have scripts to ask the right questions when these situations present themselves. And then we're going to have objections to when sellers and buyers, in those weird cases, actually come back at you with a question. You'll have the answers ready. In example 1, seller has very little or no equity. If the seller has very little or no equity, well, let's look at it. Seller calls you with a house in good condition, worth $200,000, and the loan balance is $210,000, with a payment of $1,580 per month and 27 years left on the loan. The seller is getting a divorce and leaving town, but is credit conscious and won't deed the house until the loan is paid off, but knows he's over leveraged. He's asking $210,000, which is his loan balance, obviously, and your offer is to simply lease option it for what he owes. And in this case, this is clearly an Acts deal because he's over leveraged. Now let's start right here, and let me see if I can't start conditioning your mind to make sure you are thinking these things through. Now listen to this. If I've got a $210,000 loan on a $200,000 house, guys, and I've got a very low payment to where I think I can get a nice monthly spread putting a lease option tenant buyer in the house, should I get out or should I stay in? The answer is, it is entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. In this case, I have a $1,580 payment. Is that a low payment or a high payment? Hello? That's a high payment, isn't it? So if I have no equity and I have no monthly spread, is my choice real easy? Find somebody I can plug into this deal, get an assignment fee, and get out. There's no reason for me to stay. If I stay, I'm either getting a bunch of equity or a good monthly spread, or I have no reason to stay. Are we clear? Hello? Don't be throwing away properties that are over leveraged just because they're over leveraged. In this particular example, I'm throwing it away. I'm not throwing it away. I'm axing it, ACTS. You're either going to ax it, ACTS, or you're going to ax it, AX it. In this case, we're going to ACTS it because I feel we can find a tenant buyer who will gladly come in with a $5,000 to $10,000 assignment fee for me to assign my lease option agreement to them, let them walk in, and let them make payments directly to the seller. I'm out, I'm done, and these two are married till it's over. Does everybody understand how simple an Acts deal is? I put it under contract on a lease purchase for the loan balance, which declines monthly, and I assign that contract to my tenant buyer. They take over my position, and that's why I'm getting my assignment fee of $7,500 in this example. And I hope you, right there, you can begin to see why these things are so easy. They're so easy. I'm going to get a contract signed, and I'm going to assign it to somebody else. The attorney's going to close it. I'm out. I get my check. No repairs, no money, no time delays, no short sales, no banks, no nothing. I'm getting in, I'm getting out. That's why we can do 2, 3, 4 week as long as you can keep the lead flow coming and somebody can go out and get these contracts signed. All right, you got enough. You can leave now. All right, in example 2. Seller has considerable equity and debt. And this is one where you do not want to get out. Over on the left, previous page, when I said you get out, I didn't mean you walk away from the deal. I mean you assign the contract and you get out of the deal. That's what I meant. On this page, we're not going to get out. We're going to stay in it. Seller calls you with a house worth $200 in good condition, but this time the loan balance is only $172,000 with a $1,210 a month payment. He's being transferred out of town in 2 weeks and hates the thought of listing with a realtor or has already tried it. He's asking $190 and wants someone to get a new loan. Of course, don't they all want somebody to get a new loan and cash them out? Yep, they do. And I want to lose 40 pounds. So they're asking, it's a 200 value. They're asking 190 and he owes 172. Your offer very simple. I'll lease option the property for 180. I'm not giving you 190. Guys, when they got equity like that and you know they want out and they're leaving, there's no reason to give them full price. At least try to negotiate them down some. The reality is I'd probably lease option it for the loan balance of 172. But in my example, I'm giving them a little money later. If I lease option it for 180, are they getting paid now or later? Later. But what are they getting now? Debt relief, which is really what they want. My monthly payment will equal their monthly payment. It's clear. It's going to be right in my agreement. We're going to cover all of that. My rent will equal your payment. Your payment goes up, my rent goes up. Payment goes down, my rent goes down. Whatever it is until our term is over. Therefore, you're covered. But I'm not going to start making payments for at least 60 days. And in this case, $1,000 deposit. I'd never give a deposit on the lease purchase. Frankly, I don't even know why we put that in there. I just don't, and neither should you. You don't need to give a deposit. And, of course, I'm going to negotiate this so that my purchase price is not 180. Now, watch this. This is very important that you get this. Whenever I lease option it from a seller, I'm never going to lease option it for a fixed number. My lease option purchase price is going to be $8,000 plus the loan balance at the time I purchase. I'm going to give that a minute to sink in. Where'd the $8,000 come from? It came from the difference between the $172 they owe and the $180 I promised them. See, they're not getting $180, they're getting $8 because they owe $172. So my purchase price is going to be $8,000 plus the loan balance at the time I purchase. So if I purchase this property 5 years from now, will I owe a lot less than $172? Yes. So my purchase price is that loan balance plus $8,000. And I just simply put it back on the market. Back on the market for $205 on a lease purchase. And $10,000, is it pretty easy to get a $10,000 non-refundable deposit on a nice $200,000 house in a nice neighborhood? Yes or yes? Yes. In fact, is it pretty easy to get more? Yes. Guys, I'm getting $10,000, $15,000 deposits on $90,000 houses in not so nice of a neighborhood. That's the marketplace you're in right now, whether you know it or not. If you quit listening to the whiners and the bellyachers who advertise to all the broke people and wonder why they can't get any deposits. People who can walk into a nice, beautiful home in a nice neighborhood will come up with money. Of course, not all of them, but you only need one occupant per house. And the amount of money that they can come up with will determine who that occupant is. And we're going to cover all that tomorrow. And I'm going to tell you right now, the nicer your house, the bigger your deposit. So maybe that makes a case for you to be in the nice stuff in the control without ownership business, contrary to the bank-owned properties. The bank-owned properties, I'm going to get down there low because my return on my investment is a lot larger on the cheap houses than it is on the more expensive ones if I'm paying cash. However, in the pretty house business, I want to get up there in the nice stuff. If I'm living in an area like Jacksonville, Florida, where I can go out and buy a bank-owned property, a pretty decent house in a pretty decent neighborhood that would retail for $100,000, of course it used to be $160 a few years ago, that's the cash properties. On the other hand, I can go out in this city and find multi-million-dollar properties as well. My sweet spot for the pretty house business here is somewhere between $150,000 and $500,000. And frankly, the $300,000 and $400,000 houses appeal to me much more than the $150,000 houses for one very important reason. What do you think it is? Big, fat deposit checks. I can get great, big checks from those gorgeous houses. How many $400,000 houses are there where you live where somebody can walk in and lease purchase from the seller and just walk in and take possession of the house and then get the kind of deal we're going to offer them? Not many. So, two different parts of the business. Ugly house business, cheap stuff. Pretty house business, not so cheap stuff. And when we get to it, we're going to figure out how to target what we want. So in this case right here, I'm putting it right back on the market, lease option it, get a $10,000 deposit immediately. I'm going to get $1,500 a month coming in for rent. I am paying out $1,210, so I get a monthly cash flow. Now, why did I choose to stay in this one? Because I get a monthly cash flow and I get some equity. That's why I chose it. It's a nice house. It's a nice neighborhood. It's easy to occupy if it becomes vacant again. If this tenant moves out, they lose their 10. I've got another tenant in there. I get another 10 or 15,000. It's a cash machine till I die. I'm going to lease option it from the seller, and then I'm going to sublease it to a tenant buyer with the option to buy. If they cash me out, I'll just take the money and go cry to the bank and go get another house. Not with the money, but I'll go get another house to replace it. If they kill the golden goose, I'll just go get another goose. So I'm not, if they cash me out. So this is an example of one of the thousands of houses out there that you can get your hands on. It's a free asset. Somebody drops in your lap. They give you $18,000 worth of equity. They give you a monthly cash flow without any risk on your part, no investment on your part, no credit on your part. And you take that asset, you turn it into cash now, cash monthly, and cash later because of what you know. And guys, these are the ones you want. These are the ones you want. Who likes the term residual income? You like to keep on getting paid for doing the job once? Me too. Me too. And this is how you build yourself an empire. Some moron coined the phrase quick turn. There is quick turn where you get out, you get your check, and you run. In fact, that's what we're doing with axe deals, aren't we? Quick turn creates immediate cash flow. However, it does not create any future revenue. It does not create any stability. It does not create the ability to stop working. This does. You get a whole bunch of these in your portfolio. Next thing you know, you got $20,000 a month positive cash flow coming in. By the way, tenant buyer is responsible for 100% of the repairs on this house. It's all in the contract. You don't have to do any repairs. So it's a beautiful cash flow machine, and most people just don't have a clue about it. All right, next. House is free and clear, but the seller has indicated on the property information sheet that they will owner finance. And we're going to cover all of that. Property information sheet is new. It's on your Go Club site. It's in your book. And it clearly asks the question to free and clear houses, what has the seller told you? They will owner finance, or at least they will talk about it. Okay? Then you have to get on the phone. Don't try to let your VAs do this because they'll make a mess of it. This is when you get on the phone, when you get one that says yes, and you get on the phone and ask them, we got scripts in here for it, what kind of terms they have in mind, and see if you can come to an arrangement on terms. Now get this. Here's my goal. If I find a property that the seller's willing to owner finance, I have two objectives on my mind. Number one, I want to get in light with little or nothing down. Why? Because when I put it back into the marketplace, my big front-end cash payday comes from the difference between what I can get from a lease option deposit from my tenant buyer and what I give that seller. So if I give that seller too much money, I give away my front-end profit. Secondly, I want that monthly payment to be low, 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 low. And that's what I love about free and clear houses. I can negotiate low payments, no interest payments, and really sweet terms. Those are my two objectives. My main objective is not to steal a house. The price is of the three things, price is the least important to me above down payment and monthly payment. When I get a low monthly payment, I can create a massive spread per month. When I can get that payment with no interest, I can create a quick pay down on that property. And then when I can get in with little or no money, I can create a huge pile of cash coming in on the front end a few days after I take control of the property. I love free and clear houses. I love them. They're a business within the business. But they scare most people simply because they do not know what to ask or what their objective is. My objective is simple. Get some sweetheart terms. Now, if I can't get sweetheart terms, then I'm going to have to create whatever terms I can with the intention now of passing them on to an owner-occupant buyer and get out of it because there's no reason for me to stay in it. So I'm really shooting for a deal I want to stay in, but if I can't pull it off, then I'll shoot for a deal that I can pass on and still get a big check. In example 3, it's a $200,000 house in good condition with no mortgage. And after questioning, you learn you can buy for $185,000 with $5,000 down and $800 a month payment. Okay, when you see $800 a month payment on a $200,000 house, what do you know? They ain't prying this. They ain't prying this one out of my dead hand. I'm keeping this one. This is a keeper from the word go. A keeper. I see at least an $800 a month positive cash flow on this property, and maybe more if you get good at installing tenant buyers, like we discussed tomorrow. With $5,000 down on a $200,000 house, I see a nice immediate upfront cash hit, because I know that's good for at least a $15,000 non-refundable deposit from a tenant buyer. So I simply negotiate the purchase for $800 a month until paid, which means there's no interest, and $5,000 down. Put it on the market for $210,000 and get a non-refundable deposit of $15,000 and $1,500 a month rent. Very simple. So I've got a $700 cash flow, $10,000 profit up front, back end money coming in when and if they buy, and $800 for the first month's rent, because I always give myself several months before my payment begins, and I usually install a tenant buyer in the first month, so I get to keep the rent that I collect in the first month and sometimes the second month before my payment begins. That's just another little payday I've learned to negotiate into the deals. And you will too after you go give up with 2 or 3 of them. In example 4, the seller will finance, but they're a pain in the ass. They will owner finance, but they want $20,000 down, and they want $1,250 a month for their payment. And I know I'm not writing no check for $20,000 to buy a $200,000 house, not even with owner financing. And I know that with $1,250 going out, I might get a monthly spread, but it would be kind of minimal. Therefore, I make the decision that this one just doesn't have enough in it for me to get really excited about. Now, could I stay in it? And could you? Your decision. There is some monthly spread there, but there's no upfront cash, that's for sure, because you're going to be hard-pressed to get, well, there might be. You might be able to get, in fact, we're counting on it. If we do an axe deal on this thing, we're going to put it back on the market, and somebody's going to bring in us $10,000 more. If they're going to bring in $30,000 down to take over a $1,250 a month payment at 4% interest, it says at the top. So I've decided that there's just not enough for me to want to stay in this deal. I'm going to put it under contract for $185,000 with $20,000 down at $1,250 a month with payments beginning in 3 months at 4% interest. Then I'm going to go put it out on the marketplace as a sale, an owner-occupant sale, not a lease option. Because if I've got it under contract to buy it with owner financing, remember, that's the contract I'm assigning to my buyer. So now they can come in and buy it from me with $30,000 cash and take over the position I'm in. 10 of which will go to me, 20 of which will go to the seller. Does everybody understand that? Hello? Okay. If you don't understand it and you don't raise your hand, I'm going to assume you do. Now, am I going to have a little harder time finding a buyer with $30,000, of course, than I would with less money? So I don't know for sure I'm going to exit this property. So what is my risk if I don't? When do I have to start making payments on this one on page 12? The answer is never. I'm not agreeing to make payments. I'm going into this deal clearly disclosing that I'm going to buy this property and I'm going to find a buyer you approve, Mr. Seller, that will give me more than what I'm offering to give you, and if you accept them, we're going to close. I'm going to assign my contract to them. Buyer, seller is going to know that, guys, going in. I'm not keeping that a secret. So the seller is going to know that we are not closing till I find that buyer. Period. And whatever I get, and you get $20,000 down. And you'll find those very easy to negotiate. But no risk on your part. No risk on your part. Now, you'll notice in here that I negotiated that the first payment is due in 3 months. You decide what happens to those payments. Because you've negotiated that the first payment isn't due in 3 months. You may be able to collect it from the buyer and keep it after the deal is closed if the seller's not do it. Or, I'll tell you what I'd do with it. I'd negotiate, once I find my buyer, I'd negotiate that the seller take less than $20,000 now, giving me more, and let them start making the payments immediately to them. Okay, next page. Example 5. We'll use the same house, $200,000 house in excellent condition in a lovely neighborhood, except this time our seller just can't imagine somebody living in the house until they've cashed out of it. Yet they do have equity in it because the debt on it is only because they're asking $160,000. It doesn't make any difference whether they owe $160 or whether it's free and clear. They're asking $160, knowing, but it's cash, knowing that it's worth $200. All right, you're going to oh, that's right, they have a $72,000 loan balance. It's right there in front of me. Okay, all you need to know is, though, that they want $160 and a house worth $200. You have to then decide, is there enough in that thing to make me want to option it? And I'll tell you what will influence that decision. That decision will be greatly influenced if you listen to what you were taught yesterday by the internet folks that were up here all day and learn how to drive traffic in massive herds, and you got this great big buyers list. If you got this great big buyers list and you got people that can qualify for a loan in the area where this house is and they're aching to get in there, then you're going to obviously be really thrilled to option this property for $160 because you probably got a buyer lined up for $200. And when it's all said and done, you might net $30,000 out of that deal. Why not? Your risk when you option a property is the amount of your deposit, which never exceeds $100, and usually that's because it came from your IRA. Your IRA needs to put up $100 to option the property. Is this a great deal for your IRA to do? Yes. Let your IRA option it for $160, then you go sell it for your IRA. Here comes $30,000 plus profit into your IRA for a $100 investment. Your IRA options the property, puts up a $100 deposit because that's what equity trust requires. And then when the property sells, the profit comes into your IRA, tax-free forever. Here comes $30,000 back with a $100 investment. Try to explain that one to your accountant. Try to explain that one to the guys on Wall Street. Tied up a $200,000 house with $100 and I got $30,000 back, then I don't have to pay taxes on it. Try to explain that one to all of the talking heads on all the chat rooms and get all the reasons why it can't be done back. But in case of options, you've got to decide whether there's enough in it to make you want to go get that cash buyer. And of course, the more of those cash buyers you have hanging around on your buyer's list, the easier it becomes. Nikki, if I don't get some coffee up here, I'm going to have to stop. She says, I don't care. Just your mind, Nikki, because it's not that difficult to read it. Ooh. All right. Example 6. High-priced houses option and later convert to terms. I just want to put this in here because I want you guys to open up your minds a little bit. Here's what I love about the world of FSBOs, guys. This is the greatest part about it. Thank you, ma'am. What'd you put in it? Look at this, a third of a cup. I keep telling her, VAs are cheaper. Anytime you create a deal with a human being, you can go change that deal later if that human being and you agree. And if it's in both parties' best interest. Don't forget that. No deal you create with a seller is ironclad. It's not like dealing with a bank. In this example on page 14, where what we're doing is a high-priced option. And, just for the record, if you're going to do options, if I were you, do the ones you can get 6 figures on. They're no harder to sell than the ones you get 5 figures on. Go into higher-priced properties. Build yourself a higher-priced list, for that matter, and then focus on those things and pop those big checks. A seller calls about a house on the river worth $750,000, which means it's probably on a crappy part of the river. It belonged to her mom, who recently passed away and left it to her brother. Is that good? That's good. Brother didn't pay for it. Brother don't have sentimental attachment to it. Mom did. It's a gift from the gods to brother. It's now vacant and has been on the market with a realtor for 6 months at $699. The listing expired, and the seller, who lives 1,500 miles away, are trying to decide whether to relist. They would take a deep discount for cash and tell you so in a motivated voice. In fact, before you get off the phone, she indicates any reasonable offer over $500,000 will get serious consideration. But she doesn't want anyone living in the house and wants all cash. Are you going to hear that? Is anybody going to tell you, yeah, I want all cash? Yeah, of course they are. So your offer, okay, I'll option it for $500,000 with 3 months or 6 months. To be honest with you, if I can't get a house sold in 3 months, I don't need another 3. I got better things to do in life. If we can't move it in 3, we ain't moving it. Period. We put an effort on getting buyers to that property, and we can't get it sold. Golly, get out of it is what I'd tell you to do. $100 deposit, so you tie it up with an option agreement, which we're going to cover. Okay, you put it on the market, and you run ads to attract people, indicating that you're down and out. Please come hurt me. I'm desperate. And in fact, the ad says, desperate seller. People like that, especially in these day and times, don't they? Desperate seller. I'm down. I have to sell. Man, that just brings in the bottom feeders. Since I've optioned it for $500 and it's worth $750, I know I've got some room to spare. I don't have to sell it for $750. In fact, here's the thing you should know about options. Don't ever option a property if the only way you get paid is you've got to sell it for top market value. I have one very simple rule about properties you option. Well, I have several. Number one, I want them in excellent shape. Because if they're not in excellent shape, I'm not touching them. Guys, we do not do work on houses we do not own. Hello? We don't do work on houses we don't own. And in fact, if any work's got to be done, the seller's going to do it, or I'm out of here. I'm not doing the work, and I'm not paying for the work, and neither are you. Let the seller do the work. And if the seller don't want to do the work, move on. Move on to something else that you can sell better. So, in this case, the house in good shape. It's on the river, which is a good selling point. Good selling point. We run desperate seller ads, motivated seller, must move, and we put it on the market for, I put it on the market for $650. And let whatever comes, comes. Now somebody comes along and says, I love this house. This is our dream house. But we just can't qualify right now, but we do have $200,000. Well, bells are going off in my head, because as far as I'm concerned, that person's running around with a whole lot of my money. And I want it. So, $200 ain't $500,000 though, is it? So here's what my example says. They can pay $4,000 a month. That's not a lot of money on a $750,000 house, is it? Okay? So you just change the terms a little bit. You get the idea to go back to the seller and propose new terms. Look, I got a buyer, but they can't cash out right now. They say they can cash out within a couple of years. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like for you to sell the property for $500,000 with $50,000 down. $50,000 down. Sell it to me for $500,000 with $50,000 down at $2,000 a month with a 2-year balloon. First payment due in 3 months. Now, what have we just accomplished? We accomplished a major coup. Now, in this case, guys, don't misunderstand me. This is not a flip. This is not an axe. You're actually going to take title to the property, and then you're going to sell it same day. That's the only way you're going to pull this off. This is not a contract you're going to assign. You guys see that? Okay. I'm going to take title to the property and give the seller $50,000 down. Where am I getting their $50,000? From my buyer's $200,000. Attorney's doing all of this. Your attorney. The seller will see a HUD-1 with a $500 price, $50 down, $450 note back to them, $2,000 a month with a 2-year balloon, and first payment due in 3 months. So what do we get out of this? We get $150,000 cash right now because we're leveraging our brain. Plus, we get $2,000 a month for 2 years because we're collecting 4 and paying 2. And plus, we get the first 2 months payment coming in with nothing going out if we sell it within our first month. Everybody get that? All right. Seller got what they want. We got what we wanted. We got paid now. Everybody lived happily ever after. Buyer got what they wanted. Buyer needed you to come in and make this deal work because they couldn't go qualify for a house, so they got their dream home. Now it's up to them to get it refinanced within 2 years. Now, in this case, what do you tell the seller when they ask you, well, what if they don't refinance it? Well, you call me and I'll handle it. And if we have to, we'll take it back and do it again. But you get to keep the $50,000 regardless. Whatever you can create with a human being, you get the human being to agree, you can change the terms anytime. So I know that when I do an option deal, that's not necessarily the way the deal is going to come down. My whole goal is to option the property, leaving plenty of equity in it, and then go see what the market will bring in, and then go back to the seller and try to negotiate different terms. Now that we got a bird in the hand, not one in the bush. And you'll find it very easy to negotiate short terms, especially when there's some cash involved, when the seller sees that, okay, I got a chance to get the house sold now and get it off my back and get peace of mind. Clear? Clear. Okay, next page. Lease option advantages to seller, advantages to buyer, advantages to you. You know what? Don't see any reason to sit here and dwell on them all day, but there are plenty of advantages to the seller. They get out now, they get debt relief, they get peace of mind. I've got somebody providing the capital so they can make their payments. They save their credit. And look at number 9, helps seller qualify for new financing. So let's learn the rules here. If I lease option a property from a seller and they want to go refinance, or they want to go get another loan, they have income coming in to count toward their debt ratio so they can go qualify. First, that's not my problem. I'm not here on earth to help them qualify for another loan. That's their problem. However, I know that the lender will give them credit for 75% of that income toward their outgo. So if my rent equals their payment, they are going to have a negative to count against their debt ratio. And I've found that most people that we buy from or lease option from don't have any intentions of going out and get another loan. But if they do, then they're going to have enough income to support that 25% loss. And I'll also tell you, in today's world, some lenders are going to want to require that lease option to have some time on it before they'll even give them credit for the 75%. And the amount of that time, 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, is case by case based on the lender. The lender knows that 25% of that rent income needs to be set aside for contingencies. At least that's their theory. They don't understand that all the repairs have been passed on to me, which I'm passing on to my tenant buyer. But those are the general rules. Everybody understand that? Yes. Okay. So it does help them qualify. Advantages to your buyer, well, that's kind of obvious. They get immediate occupancy. They get to control a home until they can get qualified to buy it. They get time to clean up their credit. They get to live in a lovely neighborhood. I want you to picture yourself. You came through the hard times. You probably lost your house to foreclosure, took a dip in income, and here you are renting an apartment. You have 2 kids. Every day you come home and you ask and you wonder, how did I get here? I went from having a nice home to living in an apartment where I have no privacy. I have to constantly wonder what my kids are doing. I'm always concerned for their safety. I'm concerned what's going on when they're out there on the playground playing. I can't wait till I can get my home back, or a home back. The desire, the internal need for a home is one of the top motivations. We call it the American dream of home ownership. And especially for all those people that have had a home and now don't have a home. Living with relatives or living in an apartment. And until you get into the marketplace, you just won't realize how strong that urge and desire is. Many of you do because you're in that position or have been in it. And if you haven't been in it and you're not in it, you do not underestimate what people will do to find a home of their own to move their family into. So they can have that privacy and that peace of mind. And the last thing you want to do is try to convince yourself that people don't have money, therefore they can't lease option a house. Believe it when I tell you, people find money to get into a home if they want it bad enough. They find the money. And they get it from all kinds of sources. No need for us to even try to figure out where all the sources are from. And I don't really care where the money comes from. But they find it. And they find big gobs of it. And it's our job to weed out the people that can find that money, that have that money, that urge is strong enough for them to get off their butt and actually do something to make it turn into a reality, and eliminate all of those who will not do anything to get the dream of home ownership to a conclusion. We're not dealing with everybody. We're only dealing with those that have something to work with. And that something to work with is enough money to satisfy us that they want to get into a home. And of course, most don't. The minority have it. The majority don't. What's new? That's never going to change. Never has changed. Since I started selling houses in 1982, most of the people who call cannot buy a house. Not one thing has changed in that regard. Some of them can. So it's our job to weed out the ones that can. To your buyer, you are a godsend to them. I mean, you are like what they wake up thinking about, what they go to bed thinking about. You are the path to get into that home. And all they got to do is satisfy you, and they can see themselves moving in again. It's an absolute emotional trigger. So your job is to make those houses available to those folks, pick and choose the best ones that you want, and give them that opportunity. That's one of the great benefits of this business that people sometimes don't talk about. You know, it's always about the money, the money, the money. But what a great business to be in is when you're actually helping people get out of houses they don't want to be in and get into houses that they do want to be in. And here you are, the gatekeeper, the toll booth. They get through you, they're in. And then you're offering them a chance to get into a house where they can literally sit in there for years if they want to without worrying about having to qualify for a loan. And then take these axe deals. My goodness gracious. The minimum, if the house is over leveraged, I want a minimum of a 10-year lease from my seller. I will not do it if they don't want to do it 10 years. Let them sit there and wallow in their own crap. Let the bank take their house back. I want a 10-year minimum lease, and we have no problem getting them. 10-year minimum lease. Therefore, we're passing that 10-year lease on to that buyer. It's a beautiful thing. Picture yourself as that buyer. I can move into this house and literally live here for 10 years and never have to worry about buying it. Plus, I get the benefit of the debt pay down. I'm in total control. I got my dream back, and you're letting them do it.
Ron, can I add something?
You may.
We've had 4 sellers now that have actually converted from being the seller to the tenant buyer. So we've been able to help them with their home because it was too much for them and put them into a lower priced home. So we've got their home taken care of, and then we put them into another home.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Actually, you know what? I think we've done a couple of those too. And guys, while I'm thinking about it, Stephanie, while you got the mic, a lot of your buyers for your axe deals are landlords, aren't they?
A lot of our buyers are landlords.
All right, and the only reason they're buying, I'm talking over-leveraged houses, guys. I know this goes against everything you've ever been taught about real estate. I'm a landlord. Why on earth would I want to buy a house that has more owed on it than it's worth? I must be an idiot. Well, A, I'm not buying a house. I'm leasing it. B, I have no closing costs. And C, I got a big monthly spread or I wouldn't be doing it. And that's the reason they're doing it. It's not about the debt. And this is something you guys are going to have a hard time coping with. I know I did. It's not about the debt. It's about the terms.
And remember, they can't get financed. Most of the landlords right now cannot get financing.
So if they can walk into a house that's over-leveraged and they can get a monthly spread and all the repairs are passed on to the tenant buyer, why wouldn't you want to do them as a landlord? Right. If you can make $500 a month on a house that's over-leveraged that you've got 10, 15, 20 years to buy and you get the benefit of the debt pay down, how many of those can you handle a month?
Isn't it a beautiful, Ron, isn't it a beautiful thing to have landlords bidding against each other to get your properties?
Yep.
And that's what we have.
Cool. Well, if I can make $500 a month spread, let's say I have to give them $5,000 to get into this house, and I'm making $500 a month net, how long will it take to get my money back? The answer is 10 months.
10 months.
10 months, I'm break even on this thing. Now, all these years, I get all that cash flow for free. Not a hard decision, is it? And now we're also talking about nice houses in nice neighborhoods, not the war zone crack houses they're used to dealing with. Different quality tenant buyers. Here's another one. So if I'm a landlord and I give them $5,000 to get this house, aren't I going to go get that same $5,000 or more back from a tenant buyer immediately? In other words, I'm getting in this thing for free. So landlords, wake up. Okay, advantage to you. Well, obviously there's a whole bunch of them. You get all these free assets with no money, no risk, no credit, huge market of sellers, and a huger market of buyers. All repairs are passed on to your buyers. Either the seller's doing the repairs or the buyer's doing them. You're not doing them. There's no banks to deal with. There's nobody's permission to ask because when you lease option a house, it does not trigger the due on sale clause. Bank cannot call the loan due. Nobody's selling the house. And when they do sell a house, the bank's getting paid off. No due on sale clause problems. No attorney problems. Even they understand lease options. No closing cost. When I take title subject to, I have closing cost. When I lease option it, there are no closing costs except for the attorney bill, and frankly, my buyer pays that. So a lot of advantages to you. Plus, there's a huge, huge, huge number of these things. And guys, I don't see it getting any, I don't see this market changing for a while. I mean, you think about it. We got a massive amount of houses out there that are over-leveraged right now. We got a massive amount of houses that the banks already own, and we got even a larger number they haven't even started foreclosing on yet. And how many of you that are out there in the field right now have actually seen houses that were literally, they've been living in for 2 years and they haven't even started foreclosure yet? Let me see your hands. Hold them up. Look at that. Third of the room. 2 years and they haven't even started foreclosing on them yet. What does that tell you? It tells you sooner or later this big mess has got to catch up. And there are millions of houses that are still going into the foreclosure process, and most of them are going to go right on through. And that doesn't even count the ones that are over-leveraged now where they're still current, but they won't be in the near future. We got a humongous amount of supply coming. And as long as that demand holds up, because of all the credit that has been wiped out and all the problems that people have financially, we got a really cool window here to create a fat lot amount of money. So get on it immediately and take advantage of it for as long as you can. And if you do that, if you'll do what others won't for the next 2 years, you'll be able to do what others can't for the rest of your life. And that requires more coffee. What is your target for lease options, options, and acts on page 16? Well, here it is. For options, I want it in great shape, I want it in a sellable neighborhood, and I want a lot of equity. Got that? If it's not there, you ought to write it. For options, I want it in good condition, I want it in a sellable neighborhood, and I want a lot of equity. And if I don't get all three of those things, I don't want the deal. A lot of equity to me, now get this is really this simple. Forget the Mayo formula. Mayo does not apply to anything we're doing. And Mayo is if I'm actually paying cash. Now, in an option deal, I kind of am paying cash, aren't I? Aren't I? I kind of am, but I'm not. Am I raising any cash? No, my buyer's raising the cash to buy the house. I'm not. So I don't have to buy them at Mayo. I'm not at risk. Forget Mayo. Mayo does not apply to options. In fact, Mayo only applies to cash deals, period, that you're providing the cash for. Okay, so when I'm doing an option deal, I just want to know that I can sell it below market and still make a nice profit. And when I say below market, I don't mean a little bit below market, okay? Look, let's say you got $1 million house. Are people shopping for $1 million houses pretty much know they can buy whatever the heck they want, wherever they want it? Yes? I know they're going to negotiate. In fact, people shopping for $100,000 houses now are negotiating, aren't they? Yes, they are. Because they know they can. Because the realtors tell them they can. Their brother-in-law tells they can. At the drunken party they had. They're all negotiating. Because they know they can qualify. They're a rare breed. In fact, that's down to about 18% of the buyers right now can qualify for loans. And getting worse. So they know they can negotiate. Okay? Same with high-end houses. They can negotiate. When I can write a check or get a loan, I know I'm the king of the hill. It is absolutely a buyer's market. So, I know that. I know the chances of me getting $1 million out of $1 million house are very slim. And the only way I'm going to get it is if the lady of the family just falls in love with the property and won't leave the guy alone until she buys it. Sort of like the house I'm living in right now. Thank you, man. I paid retail price for my house. I haven't gotten over it since, and I've been in it 10 years. Paid retail price for my house. I mean, it sucks big time. But on the other hand, if you've been to my house, you know that it was a rare house in a rare location and, a rare piece of property. And so it was more that than trying to get a deal on it. In fact, it was a horrible negotiation process I went through on my house. I bought it from a baseball player, Storm Davis, used to play for the Baltimore Orioles. It was a miserable negotiation because they didn't care. And it was obvious from the very beginning. They didn't need the money. They didn't care. So I had to pay the asking price, and then we got to negotiating over stuff. He had a batting cage in the yard. I wanted a batting cage. He had a $5,000 John Deere circular riding lawnmower, and I definitely wanted that because I never had one of those before. 3 months we argued over the batting cage and the lawnmower. Finally, I got the lawnmower, he got the batting cage. So we settled it. But I paid retail price for the house. That's not the way you buy houses, except for the one you're going to live in. And even then, I hope not. Anyway, no chance of me optioning that house because the seller was not flexible. The seller was not motivated. They were not going to sell it to me at a discounted price, period, case closed. That's not the kind of person you're going to deal with. But when I go into a deal, I want to know I can sell it for considerably less. So $1 million house, I don't even want to touch it unless I can option it for about $650 or so. Because I might have to sell it for $750 or $8 to get rid of it, and I know it. Hello? Well, don't do it. There's plenty of them out there. You can get plenty of equity in it. Don't take the ones that don't give you enough margin to make it worth your while. Because if you pay too much for a property, everything goes downhill from that moment forward. If you get them at a good deal, you can still screw it up and make a ton of money. So, option candidates, I want them in good shape, I want them sellable, and I want a lot of equity. And if I don't get it, the heck with them. Let them keep it. All right? Axe candidates. Axe candidates means that it's got a monthly payment that I believe that I can get an owner-occupant to take over. And I'll tell you guys, a few of them won't. Sometimes that payment is just so high, there is not a chance in hell you're going to get anybody to come in here and absorb it. Now, I will tell you that Scott has put a few people in houses where we thought the payment was at the very top, but they still came. They came slowly, but they came, and we got our fee. So I am not telling you, just because the payment seems high to you, to walk away from it. I am telling you that if the payment is high, you ought to at least tie it up let the market come, and then if it doesn't come, you can call the seller and say, look, we just can't get anybody interested. Payment's way too high. And that is the worst case with an axe deal. You call the seller up and say, we're done. Sorry, couldn't do it. That's the worst case. Got no risk.
Add something to that?
Yeah.
We've actually had 2 situations like that where we thought the payment was too high, went back to the seller when we couldn't get anyone involved in it and asked the seller if they would consider kicking in part of that. And we actually got both of them to put the taxes and insurance. They would pay the taxes and insurance.
You know what? And I have done that as well, Stephanie, but I tell you, I don't like that deal.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Because my experience tells me that when I got a seller paying part of the payment, it's not going to end well. That seller is going to make that payment until they get tired of making that payment. And when they get tired of making that payment, domino effect is going to, this downhill boulder is going to start rolling downhill. It's going to build into a big snowball. Sooner or later, we're going to have a mess here. And I don't have any reason to say that's going to happen, but in my experience, the short-term benefits of getting the deal done soon go away, and then the long-term effects jump in, and the seller's wondering, what the heck have I done, and start looking for reasons to get out. And of course, if they don't make that entire underlying payment and pay that difference out of their pocket, now they're affecting the buyer's rights, and I just don't like putting people in that position. To be honest with you, I'd rather walk than to put a buyer in a house where I know the seller's making part of the payment. Just my opinion. Okay? I don't like getting sellers to come up with part of the payment, and I don't really like sellers making promises that they will pay down the balance if the buyer goes out and gets a loan, because I just never know whether they're going to fulfill that promise or not. And not that I'm liable for it, because anytime we do a deal like that, it's clearly disclosed, the terms, in front of a lawyer, and everybody signs off on it, but we try not to set people up to fail. I'd rather not do the deal, because there's too many of them out there anyway. Okay, so an axe deal. An axe deal does not mean it's over-leveraged. It does not mean it's over-leveraged. This is a total misconception that people have. An axe deal simply means that the terms are such that I do not want to stay in the deal. Either the payment is too high, or the down payment requirement is too high, or the price that I've got to pay to get the deal is too high. Axe simply means I don't want to stay in the deal. You can do axe deals on free and clear houses, but the seller usually wants retail price. You can do axe deals on highly leveraged properties that have a little bit of equity in them, but there's just no reason for you to stay. You can assign any contract to a buyer that a seller will create with you. And if you don't want to stay in it, you get paid for an assignment and you get out of it. So please, axe is not a synonym for overfinanced, even though that is many of the axe deals we're doing.